What if the reason time management hasn't worked for you isn't because you're doing it wrong, but because you've been trying to fit into someone else's system? Welcome to the Self Trust Solution, the podcast for entrepreneurs, leaders, and high achievers who are done second guessing and ready to execute with clarity. I'm your host, Dawn Leday, the Self Trust Coach, and each week I'll help you build the one strategy that makes all others work: self-trust. This is where bold goals meet grounded action. Let's dive in. Welcome back to the Self Trust Solution podcast. If you've ever downloaded the newest planner, tried someone else's method, or rearranged your calendar for the 10th time, only to feel just as overwhelmed, you are not alone. Today, I'm joined by Anna Dearmon Kornick, a top 1% podcast host, keynote speaker, and time management coach who knows firsthand what happens when your schedule owns you instead of the other way around. She's going to show us why time management isn't one size fits all, why clarity comes before calendars, and how her heart method can help you design time management that actually works for you. Let's dive in. Welcome, Anna, to the Self Trust Solution podcast. We are thrilled to hear your most amazing topic here, which is all about time management.
Thank you, Dawn. I'm so excited that we get to chat today. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, truly my pleasure and honor. Look, you've wrangled political schedules, you've led crisis communications, and now you help high achievers make time for what matters.
Yes.
How does the journey shape your philosophy around time management?
Oh, my goodness. When I look back at my time as a congressional scheduler, so as a congressional scheduler, it's a position in every member of Congress's office that is completely dedicated to managing the boss's calendar. That's it. It's an entire job just for the calendar. And we had to make sure that every single minute of his day was planned and accounted for. And that is just that practice of having to be so intentional with someone else's time has absolutely stuck with me over time. Because when you are being pulled in a million different directions, there are a lot of decisions to be made, because just like the congressman can't be everywhere at once, we can't be everywhere at once. And we have to decide, okay, where does my time go and how can I use my time in a way that not only enables me to show up for the people, for the obligations, for the commitments that I have, but also how do I make sure that there's intentional time for me to show up for myself? And that's a lesson that I wish I would have really kept with me when I worked in crisis communications, because the world of working in crisis communications is absolutely, it's nonstop. It's 24/7, because there's always something that can be done to either navigate a crisis or come up with new strategy, or you're reacting to media calls, or you're in meetings, or you're writing talking points. And it's just a constant adrenaline rush. But if you don't have intentional time baked into your own schedule, then you're basically on a fast track to burnout, which, spoiler alert, that's exactly where I ended up. Because so much of my time was being given to supporting not just the businesses, but the people who were navigating these really tough crisis situations, that I didn't have anything left for myself.
Yeah. What do you see as the biggest mistake that most people make when trying to improve their time management?
Oh my gosh. Far and away, the biggest mistake that I see people make is that they want to start by rearranging what's already on their calendar, which that seems perfectly logical, right? I want to get my time management in order, so let me open up my calendar, see what's on there, and see how I can create some time to fit things in. How can I squeeze in more? But the truth is that rearranging your calendar or buying a new planner, or I can't tell you how many times people ask me, oh, what's the best habit tracker app? I'm trying to get my life in order. The problem is that when we start with tools, When we start with hacks or quick tips, we're completely missing the most important foundational first step,
Mm.
which is to really get clear about what you want and what you want your time to look like. Because if you're just rearranging, if you're miserable and you feel like you don't have any time and you're trying to rearrange your calendar, you're just moving around a mess.
Mm.
You're not creating space for the things that matter most to you if you're not clear about what those things are. And so that's why it normally catches people by surprise when we start working together. I start working with a new client. They're like, okay, let's open up my calendar. I'm like, nope, let's close your calendar and let's talk about your vision for the future. Let's talk about what you want your life to look like so we can begin to shape a schedule that matches that vision over time.
Yes, because you just, to your perfect point, like you end up just rearranging mess
Right.
instead of bringing in that intentionality that becomes so important. So, would you say that's one of the common traps that people fall into? Like when they try to copy other people's productivity methods that
Oh,
don't necessarily suit their personality or their vision for their future?
yes. And I'll tell you, Dawn, it's heartbreaking sometimes because what happens is that I'll talk with someone who wants to manage their time better. Maybe they're even clear about what their vision is. They're like, I want to leave my 9 to 5 job and go all in on my side hustle, or I want to scale my business, or I want to get promoted. So they might know what that vision is, but then their supervisor or a well-meaning friend or their spouse or somebody they listen to in a podcast might say, use this method because it worked for me.
Mm.
Use this method because it works. But the problem is that, and it's not even a problem, the delightful thing is that we're all different. We are all different. We make decisions differently. We take in information differently. We think differently, in addition just to the different desires and visions that we have for ourselves. And it can be so frustrating and even heartbreaking to see someone try a method, maybe that they read about in a book, maybe that they heard about from someone else, and it doesn't work for them. It just does not match the way that they think. And so then they think it's
Them.
them.
Yeah.
They think that they're the problem. When in reality, it's just a mismatch between the method and your mind, the way that your mind works.
Yeah, we have to work with our unique skills and capacity and way of thinking
Yeah.
to be able to move forward. I always talk about how our schedule, our calendar mirrors what our life is going to be. And if it's not mirroring that vision, then you're not working towards it.
No, you're just keeping things the same. And even just one way to start making that shift is, okay, what's one thing that I can do differently in the week ahead that's going to get me one step closer to the vision that I have? Because that's another big trap that we fall into, Dawn. It's this all or nothing thinking where it's, okay, I need to overhaul my life. I need to start 17 new habits that help me align with my vision. And I need to work out twice a day. And I'm going to get up at 5 a.m. And so we get these grand ideas that in order to change our lives, you have to change everything at once. And then what happens? It all falls apart because we are not, our minds, as brilliant as they are, not able to handle that much change all at once. It's just too much. And then we crash out and we get disappointed in ourselves because we can't do it. When in reality, our expectations of ourselves were just entirely too high. Not fair.
We're just not aligned.
Yeah.
To your point before. I mean, we can make many changes. I think starting with one is such a great way to do that because we're giving ourselves incremental successes and wins
Yes.
that we can celebrate. And that serves as intrinsic motivation moving forward for sure.
Yeah.
What I love about what you've just really called out in both of those examples of following someone else's program or trying to make too many changes at once is that when we do that, we're looking for external solutions to an internal opportunity. And when we do, that's when we lead down to, we break trust with ourselves because we start to think we're the problem instead of just the solution we come up with isn't aligned.
And Dawn, it always makes me think about going shopping for jeans. So I hate shopping for jeans and pants in general, just like all of that. It's frustrating because you go into the dressing room, it's always the lighting is terrible, the carpet smells funny. Like you bring in a handful of jeans and you try on maybe 3 or 4 pair and none of them fit you right. Maybe they're a little bit baggy at the waist, or they don't like make your butt look like the way you want it to look, or they're too short or too tight or too loose. And the thing is that most of the time, whenever we go to try on jeans somewhere or pants and 1 or 2 pairs don't fit us, we don't just swear off pants forever. These pants didn't fit me, so I'm just not going to wear pants ever again. Pants don't work for me. I give up on pants. And yet we act that exact same way with time management and productivity. We'll say that method didn't work for me and this didn't work for me. So time management just doesn't work for me. I'm just going to keep winging it and be the hot mess express. No, you just need to keep trying on a couple more pairs to find the one that fits, and maybe take it to the tailor so that it fits you.
Yeah. A beautiful analogy and so true. And one that so many of us can relate to for sure. How would you say that someone can begin to trust themselves to manage their time differently, especially if they haven't had these kind of repeatedly broken time promises or ways that didn't work for them in the past?
Yeah. Dawn, I think this is where self-awareness and self-trust really go hand in hand. Because when you know yourself, when you when you understand the way that you think, how you make decisions, whether you prefer closure or open-endedness, where your energy goes, how your energy is drained. When you know those things about yourself, it's like you're able to trust yourself, because there's no question about how am I thinking about this decision? You just know. And self-awareness is such a big part of self-trust and feeling confident in the methods that you decide to work with. That's why whenever I start working with a new client, whether it's one-on-one or in the It's About Time Academy, one of the first things that we do in learning to navigate overwhelm is how to use yourself and your personality as your compass. And really, oftentimes, this is the first time the men and women in my programs have actually seen on paper what makes them uniquely them. And it's exciting and it's beautiful. And they're like, wow, this really is me. This helps me understand so much about myself. And it really increases the confidence that they have in knowing, okay, so a checklist is where it's at for me. Or I need to have very broad time blocks rather than rigid time blocks, because rigidity, I'm going to reject. But broadness and themes feel right to me. And it's just, I love that eye-opening moment that unlocks so much when it comes to what methods and steps are going to work best.
Yeah. It's such a good way of looking at it, because what I teach also is this awareness. But in addition to that is creating a safe space to be honest with yourself and tell yourself the truth. And instead of trying to bend yourself to the world, bending your world to yourself, because you do have these unique ways of seeing things. You're magical in all that you're often fighting against. And when you actually embrace those powers that you're used to judging,
Yeah.
and then bend the world to you instead of the other way around, you can create scheduling that actually moves you forward. It becomes the tool it's meant to be, instead of who you are.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But what's so tough, Dawn, is that we can be so frustrated with the way that our life is currently shaped. We can be so frustrated with our schedule and our time and the commitments that we've made, and maybe our inability to hold to the boundaries that we have for ourselves. that sometimes we just want to throw our hands up and say, just tell me what to do. Just give me a system. Tell me what to do and I'll do it. And we think that's going to make things easier.
Yeah.
But instead, it just sets us up for disappointment because there are a whole lot of people out there willing to tell you, you should do it this way.
Yeah.
Here's a system. This system worked for me, so you should do it this way. But it's just another path to being set up for disappointment. And so I really encourage people to think about, yeah, I know that you want somebody to just tell you what to do, but when you create a method that fits you, that's what you're actually going to stick with over time. That's when true transformation actually happens, not just by copying and pasting some other method that's out there. Oh, it's so frustrating.
Yeah. Let's like tell the whole world right now, right? That all those methods work. They work for someone and maybe even hundreds of people. But
Yes.
if they don't work for you. You are not the problem. It's just not aligned with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the same reason why you and I could do exactly the same things and we would get different results. Because we're
Exactly.
different humans.
Exactly.
And that's
Exactly.
not a problem. That's a feature. Not a flaw. It's actually something we can absolutely work with and then turn into something super powerful.
Yes. It's a delight.
But speaking of methods, you have something called the heart method. Can you share a little bit about that?
Sure. Yes. So the heart method is my time management method. And I'm always careful to say that it's a method, it's not a system. Because when I think of systems, again, that always makes me think about copy paste. Yes, do it this way, you must follow this path. But the heart method is designed in a way that molds to your life and the way that you think rather than you having to conform to something else. And it starts by navigating overwhelm because so often we can't even begin to think about what we want our lives to look like because we are so overwhelmed. So, in the 4 phases of the heart method, first we navigate overwhelm. And then that's when we step into being our visionary selves and getting clear on our vision for the future, articulating our core values. And here's what's so funny. A lot of times we want to say we set our priorities, but our priorities are continuously changing. My priority for the next 5 minutes is going to be different from my priority an hour from now, just because we are always engaged in this ruthless prioritization of what matters most right now. And so we lock in on different methods of prioritization. What are your priorities for the next year? But what are your priorities for the next 5 minutes when you've got to make decisions on a smaller level about what to get things done? Because once we're clear on our vision, values, and our priorities, now we can actually start designing. We can actually start designing routines, a life, a schedule, systems even that make our vision real, that support that. It's like designing a house and then you're able to put all the fun bells and whistles. And I say the fun bells and whistles are phase 4, which is where we set the pace and we make all the work that we've done sustainable. Because it's one thing to set up systems and create an ideal week for yourself and have certain routines in place, but our lives are constantly changing, especially if you have kids, because as your kids get older, everything changes. And so how do you keep what you've created long term? And I don't mean how do you maintain the same schedule for the next 20 years? How do you adjust and adapt based on what life throws you? Because if there's anything that we've learned in the past 5 years, it's that we don't know what's coming up around the corner. And if you can flex and you can adapt, then you'll be able to keep moving forward. So that last phase, I call it pace setter because we set the pace for ourselves. We are the leader of ourselves. That's where we dive into the 5 elements of living with heart. So we go deep on habits, energy, attention, recharge through rest, recreation, and relationships, and some of those advanced time management techniques that really enable you to be that time management ninja when you need to be.
Yeah. So it seems like it's a method, a framework that evolves as your priorities, your needs, your life evolves.
Absolutely.
So you're not sticking to one thing, that all or nothing, like this works and now it doesn't. It's like this is
Right.
something that can work with you throughout all the phases.
Exactly. I think of it not as let me teach you a system and more let me teach you a way to think about life.
Yeah.
That's really it. Because I hear this all the time. What worked for me then so well isn't working for me now. And I don't know how to change it. I don't know how to fix it. I see this all the time when women shift from working 9 to 5 to running their own business. I see it when moms go from 0 kids to 1 kid and 1 kid to 2 kids. I see it when women retire. I see it when their husbands retire. There's this big shift and they don't necessarily innately instantly know, how do I shift this? How do I adapt? And so that's my goal, is not to teach a system, but is to teach a way of thinking so that you can adapt, because life is inevitably going to change.
Always, minute by minute.
Yeah.
I love it because it really highlights that the tools of our schedules, our calendars, even the techniques and tips, they are meant to support your life. They aren't the solution to what you don't like about your life. And so you learn
Exactly.
the flow of adapting and all these different areas that you talk about and caring for themselves through it. It makes you're able to use those tools and tips that you have available to you when they're needed. They're not always
Yes.
needed at all the time.
Oh, absolutely. It's like a toolbox that you reach from.
Yes. Which part do people struggle with, if any, and why?
And so I'd say that I think that attention is probably the one that I get the most questions about. How do I stay focused? How do I eliminate distraction? So we do a lot of work on auditing your notifications and creating an environment for focus and managing the shiny things is what I like to call them, using a shiny things list, because we are sometimes our own worst distraction. And so most people think that attention is where they need the most work. But the truth is that recharge is
Mm.
really the forgotten element, because sleep is the most underrated productivity tool that exists. When we are not well rested, everything suffers. Our mood, our productivity, our precision, just everything suffers when we're not rested. And so, rest and then recreation, having fun for the sake of having fun, we need just fun, silly things in our lives. We need a hobby. We need to put together puzzles or go to mahjong or doodle or color. It doesn't even matter what it is, but you have to have some type of outlet that is fun for the sake of fun. They don't say all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy for no reason.
Yeah.
It's true. It really, that just fun for the sake of fun is so recharging and just nourishing for us. And then relationships, when life is busy, especially I see this in women all the time, moms especially, when life's busy, our friendships are one of the first things to go. And you realize that it's been 6 months and you haven't seen your group of girlfriends, or you haven't gotten together, or even our relationships with our spouses or our partners. We see them all the time, but how quality is that interaction? You can live with someone and still be like ships passing in the night if you aren't creating the space for intentional relationship building. And so those are the things that rest, recreation, relationships tend to get the scraps of our time. We say, we'll get to that after I get everything else done. But without those three things, rest, recreation, and relationships, we are not our best self. We
Yeah.
need that.
We start to move, and tell me if you agree, like we move things into a transactional basis. Like even our relationships can become transactional, speaking to spouse, just
Yeah.
about kids, just about the weekly payment, just about. And even with our schedules, we can get into transactional, meaning it's a set it and forget it. And we don't even recognize that it's not working for us.
Right.
And
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
So this intentional joy, this intentional, that's what I'm calling it, by the way.
Yes. Yeah.
This setting intentional joy between relationships and recreation and rest is really powerful. I love that. So it seems, oh, they think awareness might be the thing they need the most, but if they implement the R, then it helps.
It does.
It also helps you bring more awareness, right?
Yes. Yeah. When you get a good night's sleep, it's easier to focus on the work that's in front of you.
Yeah.
So let's create a ritual for sleep. Let's set a bedtime. Let's set a goal for the number of hours of sleep that you want. And I used to say this, I'm just not good at resting. I'm just not good at sleeping. Oh, that's ridiculous. It's a choice.
Yes. Always a choice. And that even in itself is such a powerful component of us as humans, that we have this ability to choose. And that's why even when you get to a point of this doesn't work for me, or I didn't do this, and the tendency is to go into beating ourselves up. I always say, what if you just saw it as a choice? I chose not to do that thing. What an amazing privilege that I have.
Yes.
To decide to do something and then choose not to anyway. And if I don't like my reason for it, I can change it, because choices can be changed. But when we're labeling ourselves as the problem, that's harder.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, it's choice. It's a choice. And I didn't always believe that. I very vividly remember the day that the light bulb went off for me. And I realized, oh, wait, I get to decide what happens next for me. I don't have to continue on the same path I am on just because I've been on this path for the last 5 years. No one else is coming to make the decisions for me. And I'm the one in charge here.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay, let's go.
Yeah. It's so much more empowering. It places you rightfully so as the lead of your life.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I do. Like, I remember looking at people who were speaking and people who were coaches and thinking, God, I really want that. I really want to be doing that. Okay, so what's stopping me?
What if I just chose it right now? What if I just
Yeah.
made that decision right now?
Yeah.
Then I'm going to do the version of that. I think this is an important piece. I'm going to do the version of that I love that works for me.
Yes, 100%.
So good. What would you say to the person listening who feels completely overwhelmed, unsure where to start, and doubting whether change is even possible for them?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. The first thing that I would tell you is that yes, change is possible, but you also have to believe it. And so, what I would encourage you to do is and I have the members of the It's About Time Academy do this too. We call it the go getter mindset. Is that we make a list of every single negative belief that we have about whether it's our time or just the overwhelm that we feel. Things like, I'm not in control of my schedule, or I never have enough time, or I don't have enough time to spend with my friends. I don't have time, like all of those things that we feel. And then we look at each one and we're like, but why is this true? Is this true? Or is this just a messed up, yucky belief that I have?
Yeah. Or is it just a choice I've been making that I can now change?
Is it a choice I've been making that I can change? And so then we flip the script. We flip the script and we put together a list of positive beliefs about our time and how we spend it. And I'll tell you, at first, you're not going to believe all of them instantly, but it's step one of rewriting the script in your head about time. Because if you tell yourself, I'm not good at time management, you will not be good at time management, because your brain will hear, I am not good at time management. And then it will subconsciously act in a way that confirms that.
Of course. And it's also a partial truth.
Mhm.
There may be some times where you haven't been good at time management, but you are a living, breathing human getting things done every day, especially if you're a mom, especially if you own a business. So what part are you neglecting to see that you are good at when you're
Mhm.
so focused on what you're not good at?
Exactly. Exactly. So mindset is a huge first step,
Mhm.
but then it's just getting everything that is in your head out,
So
because
powerful.
we we carry so much. I like to imagine having on a backpack and every single role or responsibility that you have in your life, mom, wife, daughter, sister, neighbor, leader, business owner, client, coach, vendor, PTA, volunteer, church member, neighborhood association, every single role, every single responsibility, filing the taxes, making the quarterly payments, fixing the school lunches, every single one of those is a brick in your backpack. Every
You know
single
what
role.
else gets added on top of those bricks that are probably chosen responsibilities? Some you may want to let go and lay down if you gave yourself permission to look at what you really want, like
Mhm.
it's telling us here. But what you add on top of those bricks are cinder blocks of I'm not doing it good enough. I'm not
Yep.
doing it right. I should be better.
All of
And
the
it
self
just
doubt.
makes it heavier.
And so we've got to, when we're carrying around all of those roles and responsibilities and the tasks and to dos that go with them in our heads, and you might be thinking, no, and I have a to do list. But, but there are so many things that are still living in your head, despite the fact that you have a to do list, that you don't even realize. How much milk do you have in the fridge right now? Chances are you could probably tell me about how much milk you have in the fridge, because it's probably your job to make sure that milk gets put on the grocery list. Do we
Probably,
even?
yes, Anna, I have 2 bowls of cereal left.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So that means that you've got to, in your mental list, stop at the grocery store on your way home today. And that probably isn't on your to-do list next to the report you have to submit and the bill that you have to pay. And so when all of this lives in our head, it's like carrying around a heavy backpack. It makes us go slower. It weighs us down. It makes us tired. It exhausts us. It puts us in a grumpy mood. And so the very first thing that we do is we get all of it out into a massive mind sweep. I call it a mind sweep, not a brain dump, because I feel like brain dump just sounds gross. That, and it's, imagine like taking your junk drawer and dumping it out on the floor and everything just flies everywhere. That's a brain dump. We don't do that. We do a mind sweep, because with a mind sweep, you're very intentional about pulling things from all of the various nooks and crannies and corners of your mind, and you make little piles. You make little piles before you clean it up. And so that's when I equip my clients, my members, with this. We call it the mind sweep list. And it's just a list of words that represent things that are common in your personal life and things that are common in your professional life. And you just read these words, and every single thing that pops into your head comes out. And by the time you are done, it's like you feel empty. And you might not have felt that in a while, but you feel empty. But of course, then you have this whole list of stuff in front of you. But the thing is that now that we have this list in front of us, we can actually do something with it, because we can't do anything with it when it's just living in your head.
No, and it starts selecting, I call it friends and evidence. When it's swirling in your head, it grabs more things.
Yeah.
When
Oh, that is true.
when you get it on paper, it's out of my head now. Now I can look at it and see what's useful, what's not useful, what needs action now, what needs action
Mhm.
down the line. And we can start to actually make a plan. When it's
Mm.
swirling in our head, it just keeps adding more things to it.
Exactly. Exactly. Plus the fact that there's this thing called the Zeigarnik effect, which tells us that our brains prefer to fixate and focus on things that are unfinished.
Mhm.
Most things in our life are unfinished. And so whenever we're laying in bed at night and we can't help but swirl through our to-do list, and the fact that our desk drawer is disorganized and that we want to reorganize the hall linen closet, and that we still need to pick up treats for the ballet class, Halloween, whatever coming up, you just continue to swirl.
Mhm.
But when you get it out of your head, then you can decide, oh, I know I need to reorganize the linen closet at some point, but there is no reason for this to be weighing me down right now.
Yeah. I
This
think
is
the other piece too of that is that when it's out on paper, if you develop the trust with yourself and you're seeing this great tool of a list that you've used to support yourself, you're like, I'm so good. That way, when it starts to swim in your head, you're like, oh, it's already on the list. I don't need to think about it. It's good. It's
exactly.
done.
It's you trick your brain into thinking the loop is closed.
Yeah. And I think the truth is that it is because if it needs to be done for real, you're going to get it done. And if it's not getting done and it's moving the schedule forward over and over again, sometimes it's just something that isn't as important as you.
Exactly. Exactly.
So it's so great to free yourself, to unburden yourself, if you will, with this
Yeah.
list, and then get into a practice of reminding yourself if something pops in your mind and it's not already on the list, add it to the list.
Add
If
it
it's
to the
already on
list.
the list, you just remind yourself, it's good as done. It's on the list.
And then that opens up the whole can of worms of, but where do I put the list and how do I keep the list organized? And that's a whole different episode because then we start getting
Yeah.
into systems like task management and all that and making sure that fits the way you think. But yeah,
But that's why it's so important to get into that mindset piece and to put together a method like you do with your clients that works for the individual instead of them trying to force themselves to fit into a box of a framework or strict regimen that isn't going to work for them and is just going to lead to more self-doubt and self-recrimination. So
100%.
tell us about this blueprint to balance that you have available for our listeners.
Oh my gosh, thanks so much for asking. So, Blueprint to Balance is actually a course that I put together that walks you through the process of creating your own blueprint to balance. I'm sure one thing that you've picked up on today is the fact that I really believe in customizing it to fit you and your life. And so, Blueprint to Balance is four or five super quick videos that walk you through that process one day at a time so that you can come out on the other side feeling more confident about your personal blueprint to balance because balance looks different for all of us. I believe that balance is a feeling and not a formula. It's not something that can be copied and pasted or A plus B equals C. You have to create your own version of it and define that in order to make it real for yourself. You can grab that for free at blueprinttobalance.com. And I can't wait to hear what you think about it. So come find me on Instagram, send me a DM, let me know that you got your hands on it and how it's been going for you.
Yeah, so we'd love to hear. I'd love to hear how that works for you. It's such a beautiful invitation to really recreate what your balance looks like for you because I really want to beg you, plead with you right now to stop trying to compare your life to someone else's balance.
Yeah, absolutely. It just doesn't make sense.
It's
That's like
fair.
comparing your like finances to someone else's. Like you have no idea what's going on below the surface with people's finances. Don't even. So like same thing with people's time and what their balance looks like. You have no idea. So focus on you.
Yes. Tune in first, find what works for you. You're going to be so much happier if you do. If someone were committed to just one small shift this week, in addition to going to get blueprint to balance, what would you encourage them to try first?
Oh, okay. Here's what I got for you. This is going to give you so much bang for your time, not bang for your buck, because it's free, but bang for your time and create such a ripple effect. This week, whether it's Friday afternoon, Saturday morning, Monday morning, I encourage you to sit down and look at next week. That's it. Just sit down and get a bird's eye view of what is on your calendar for the week ahead. That's it.
I love it.
Because when you have that awareness, when you have the visibility of what is coming, your brain naturally starts shifting into problem solving and preparedness mode. And so that means that you might just feel inspired to put together a meal plan for the week. You might just feel inspired to decide when during your week you're working on specific projects. If you want to keep going, you can look at your week ahead, identify the tough spots, make decisions that need to be made, create your time blocks for your most important goals. You could go crazy and check the weather or update your budget. But all I'm suggesting is that in the next week, just look at the week ahead. Create that awareness and invisibility for yourself and see what happens. Because chances are it's going to enable you to move through your week with more calm, clarity, and intention because you've given yourself that bird's eye view time.
Yeah. And then go ahead and plug in that schedule, grab blueprints about.
Yes, do that too.
Amazing. Anna, thank you so much. This has been such a great conversation. I'm so grateful and honored that you came to talk about all this beautiful information of how to build time for you instead of trying to force yourself into time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Dawn. This has been great.
What will you take away from today's episode? Here are 4 key takeaways that we're carrying forward. First is to start with clarity, not calendars. Rearranging what's already on your schedule doesn't fix overwhelm. First, get crystal clear on what you actually want, then build your time around it. Second, your personality is not the problem, it's the path. Productivity methods that don't match your way of thinking aren't proof that you failed. They're proof that the method isn't aligned. Like shopping for jeans, you may just need to find the right fit or tailor it to you. Third, rest, recreation, and relationships are not luxuries. Most of us give our scraps of time to these 3, when in fact, they're the foundation of sustained energy, sharper focus, and deeper self-trust. Rest isn't optional, it's strategic. Fourth, awareness creates agency. When you can see your patterns and energy clearly, you stop outsourcing control of your time to systems, other people, or expectations. You take the lead. If your relationship with time has felt like a losing battle, today's conversation is your reminder you are not the problem. It's time to stop contorting yourself to fit productivity frameworks that weren't built for you and start designing a rhythm that reflects your vision, values, and energy. You can connect with Anna and access her free instant access video course, Blueprint to Balance, at blueprinttobalance.com. And if this episode resonated with you, share it with a friend who's ready to step out of calendar chaos and back into agency over their time. Inside every goal is a decision, an action, an evaluation, and an adjustment. Keep building your rhythm with the Self-Trust Solution. Subscribe, leave a review, and explore how we can work together at theselftrustcoach.com. I'll see you in the next episode.